dear participants. At the moment, all humanity is facing multiple ecological problems that endanger our own existence, but also that of the nature in general, and Moldova is not an exception. One of the most important causes of the negative consequences said above is the mismanagement of waste. Considering that actions that should be taken are an imperative for the country, the Foreign Investor Association advocates for adjusting the legal framework and improving the institutional capacity to implement the international commitments in the field of integrated waste management. We consider it to properly apply the new concept of extended producer responsibility provided by the national legislation. It is widely implemented in different developed countries around the world and imposes on the producers the obligation to bear the costs for the correct collection, treatment, recovery, or disposal of the waste generated by products placed on the market. Situation has changed, referring to the previous edition of the White Book, and a certain number of suggestions that we had were already implemented, but there is still some room for improvements and collaboration in between the state and the government and the private sector. As the regulation on electronic and electronical equipment, As the regulation on electric and electronic equipment waste was approved, we see that there are some missing provisions, and we suggest to at last establish the unit reference value for items covered by the waste regulation. A tax incentives for producers implementing the waste regulation in order to direct financial resources towards ensuring EPR, as well as to encourage producers to create collective sheen. To elaborate a normative framework to regulate the obligations of natural persons regarding the recycling of waste, including their sanctioning, in case of non-compliance with their respective obligations, as we understand that the waste management is not only a subject of business responsibility, it is a matter of civic responsibility too. Another important subject that is not only about waste management, but mostly about limiting waste, especially of the food. In this sense, FIA insists about the importance of elaboration and approval of the dedicated regulation that will establish the role of each participant in food sector in preventing food waste. The mechanism for the free and reduced delivery of food to beneficiaries, the fiscal facilities offered to the economic agents in the food sector that implement within their enterprise mechanism for the prevention of food waste and for transmission of surplus food products to the beneficiaries, and the existence of an electronic platform that will facilitate monitoring and logistics related to the food waste reduction. Packaging waste regulation was also adopted, but we consider that it must be transformed into a working document, followed by some legal provisions that will allow to create right conditions for the establishment of collective systems that will harness multiple types of packaging. In this sense, we need a clarification of registration of collective and individual waste management systems and obtaining the operating license. A solution to subsidize through grants and co-financing of collective waste management system to boost their activities. A decision about exemption from tax for environmental pollution of economic agents that are part of a collective waste management system, or implement an individual system and a clear definition of waste ownership. And last, but not the least, we need to state support to establish a deposit system for returnable and reusable packaging that will also serve the goal of reducing waste. We, as FS Moldova, are the main Moldovan company that practices this system for a long time. And we are convinced that by establishing and enlarging this system, the amount of packaging waste may dramatically decrease, as well as energy and raw material usage. To develop appropriate legislation which allows and encourages the return of packaging for a fee through commercial units or specialized collective points. We need to extend and encourage by law the use of returnable packaging for all types of non-alcoholic beverages, as well as those with low alcohol content, which do not present a risk of counterfeiting. To elaborate a fiscal mechanism of this deposit system, taking into account that its application will have an impact on the self-cost of the final product. To identify the possibility of attributing the cost of implementing the deposit system to deductible expenses related to entrepreneurial activity. And to simplify the authorization to collect, harness activity to a simple notification, and to elaborate additional documents that need to be issued when applying the deposit system, as it's including both fiscal and juridical bodies. Those are the brief main recommendations linked with the waste management. We are open for further discussions, exchange of good practices, providing expertise, of course, if there is a need. Thank you.